Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Attorney General and Minister for Justice Dr. Dominic Ayine chides Ghana Bar Association over what he describes as selective interest in legal cases in the country.
The lawyer in politics must be a voice of reason, moderation, and constitutionalism. The bar must speak out not to please governments or opposition parties, but to defend the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, and the rights of the ordinary citizen.
We'll bring you more on that, plus an exclusive interview with politician and lawyer Atachia, also criticizing the AG over the Adu Buahine case. Also coming up with government's intention to close down the Sola and Vonkoro camps this week. The over 20,000 displaced victims who had pitched camp in Sola and Vonkoro have begun returning to their communities. And much later, Santiman observes solemnity as a week-long funeral for late Asante Hima commences. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, has chided the Ghana Bar Association over what he describes as selective interest in legal cases in the country. Speaking at the 2025 Ghana Bar Conference, Dr. Ayine challenged the bar to speak out and to please government and not to please government or opposition, but as a voice of reason.
In 2015, an Article 146 petition was received by the Chief Justice in relation to the former chairperson of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Madam Loretta Lamke. The bar failed to speak out about process. In the run-up to the 2016 elections, the then opposition New Patriotic Party engaged the Electoral Commission in court battles over the voter identification system. This gave rise to the Abu Ramadan line of cases. Immediately upon assuming office in 2017, an Article 146 petition was filed for the removal of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, and her deputies from office. The bar saw no basis to speak out about compliance with due process. But in recent times, the bar found its voice when petitions based upon the same constitutionally defined procedures were brought in respect of the removal from office of the former Chief Justice, Mrs. Gertrude Araba-Tokono. Ladies and gentlemen, the honest question we have to ask ourselves is, what changed? The lawyer in politics must be a voice of reason, moderation, and constitutionalism. The bar must speak out not to please governments or opposition parties, but to defend the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, and the rights of the ordinary citizen. Our authority as a profession depends on public confidence that we stand above the fray of narrow partisanship. Let us therefore be the conscience of the Republic, fearless when governments overreach, impartial when opposition agitates, and always faithful to the sovereignty of the people under the Constitution.
And he had the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine. Meanwhile, the lead counsel for Beatrice Adu, the former CEO of the National Signals Bureau, lawyer Atachia, has also criticized the Attorney General for what he describes as a prosecution of his client without proper documents given to the defense team. Take a listen to an exclusive interview Mr. Atachia had with me earlier.
The theatrics did not start with the Attorney General. Can you imagine that a security couple of the realm called Ghana comes to Ghana through Kotoka International Airport, not through the bush, and he's supposed to be prosecuted or investigated? And then when he's in the airport, they put a handcuff on his hand like a common criminal. All that I've come to know is that when you say you are investigating somebody, a phone call, oh yes, Kwabena Dubuain, Yoko would want you to come over tomorrow for us to start an investigation. You may come with your lawyer, and the time scheduled you for the interrogation is 1 p.m.
We'll go into that as regards why the Attorney General, based on the Attorney General's own words, why he chose to use that avenue. Well, he was arrested by Yoko at the Kotoka International Airport. But back to my question about whether or not the revelation from the Attorney General shocked you as a person that an individual would have as much as that amount of money transferred into his private account.
But it's all bogus. I have to tell you that if you pay regard to what they were trying to say, they didn't even understand why the account was open. There's a clear indication that the money was coming from the operational account of the national security, and they wanted to do operations via accounts they opened. So you could see a letter originating from the then national security coordinator, chairman, to Advantage Solutions, that they should open the account so that they do what they do.
So the point was, and the contract was with an Israeli company, why not transfer directly from the National Signals Bureau account into that account? And again, the allegation is that instead of the 49 million Ghana cedis, your client transferred just 1 point something, and the rest they couldn't trace it. It was rather transferred into his private account. That was the basis.
You see, do you know who should come and interpret this? Kandapa?
And you had a bit of that interview. We'll bring you more later. That was Atachia, his lead counsel for the former Director General of the National Signals Bureau. Now, Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa has assured Ghanaians that strict safeguards have been put in place to ensure that convicted, hardened criminals cannot be brought into Ghana. Under an agreement with the United States, Ghana has agreed to accept West African nationals transitioning through Ghana after deportation from the U.S. Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa was speaking at the Government Accountability Series.
And you are wondering if we would not be seen as an enabler. To the contrary, I mean, these people had their rights being violated already before their departure. We have followed the lawsuits that have been filed, and it is important to stress that Ghana has not been cited. We are not the target of these persons who say their rights have been violated. Their target is the United States, the Trump administration. And as has been pointed out, we are only helping our brothers and sisters. We are coming in purely on humanitarian grounds, expressing Pan-African solidarity, which Ghana is famed for. So we should rather be seen as a country that wants to look out for its fellow Africans. That is why we made it clear to the Americans that we will not accept $1. We don't want any, because it comes with some financial burden, hosting them, taking care of the accommodation and all of that before they transition to their countries. But we said that we will not, because it could be misconstrued and the impression could be created that we are doing this for some other motive, some financial objective. We are not seeking any financial.
And he had the Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa. Richard Kumado is a security and fraud consultant. He joins us live on the line. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome, Beatrice.
This assurance from the minister, what does it mean to security in the country?
Definitely, I think it's reassuring, and it's good he spoke as quickly to this particular issue as possible. I think the concern people have was whether that this particular agreement requires parliamentary approval. And if that is not the issue, then from where I stand and the little I know, I can rest assured and I can competently say that in signing some of these agreements and getting to the conclusion part of it, three people you will want to have on that table is the Foreign Affairs Minister. The next person is the Attorney General, and the next person is the Minister of Interior. And so to the extent that these key stakeholders have been consulted and they've given an approval and the contract is signed, I want to believe that all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. So that is where we are.
We heard the minister also talk about African deportees. I'm just wondering whether he convinced you that indeed we use the best practice.
Some of these contracts with America can be complicated sometimes. But if I hear what the president said and from what the foreign minister is attesting to, it means that their predominant interest is the West Africans. And we have that common protocol among ourselves. So anybody who has been clear by the Ghana government that it can come, it means that the risk assessment has been done, and in terms of crime, in terms of security threat, and in terms of safety, and they will want to have them and facilitate their transportation to their various countries. So that is where we are, and this should be the content of the agreement we have signed, unless there are other intended purposes. But from what I have heard from the two gentlemen, this is my understanding.
Again, how do we assure Ghanaians that there will be no escalation of the matter, that the security is still safe even in the midst of these foreigners that are coming in?
Definitely, he has spoken about it. I think public education is important. If the president hasn't said it, most people are not aware that the people have come and this agreement has been signed. So public engagement is important. Government communication is important, considering the fact that today we have what we call governance on social media, and whatever they say goes very far. I think my brother Felix Ovosukwachi, government communication, should put up a statement, and that would have gone far, and that would have addressed some of the concerns people have. But to the extent that you have the foreign minister, you have the attorney general, and you have the minister of interior at the table, at the time when these discussions were made and the agreement was signed, I seriously believe that some of these things have been taken care of, particularly the safety and the security assurances. If they otherwise happen, we are a sovereign nation and we have the right to terminate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumado, for speaking to us. And you had there Richard Kumado. He's a fraud and security consultant. Now, the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has admitted that there were some mistakes the former administration and the party made while in government. On behalf of the party and the former government, he has apologized to Ghanaians and the MPP, asking delegates of the party to renew his ticket. He engaged zonal executives of the MPP join his 3-day tour of the Ashanti region.
I feel say ye yanye ye may be true anka from the background so ye
there were certain things we failed to do, things we shouldn't have done. Please forgive us.
Point is from so pacho and why.
And you had the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Professor Smart Sapon, a senior research fellow at the Kumasi Technical University, believes the apology is in the right place and hopes it gets the needed attention.
The apology is in place. Let's hope and wish that it is taken in good faith. And then for what it does for him as the political leader, I mean, it presents him as somebody who accepts the mistake when it is brought to him. Whether he was directly involved as the implementer or not, he was part of the government. No, he's apologizing for the actions and inactions of the government which he was part. And you hear him list all other people who were also part. And it is important he made that point there, because if you follow the news recently, it appears that he is being carried all the luggage of the previous government. And if he apologizes now, perhaps he envisages that Ghanaians may accept his apology, and when the opportunity comes, give him the opportunity to come and do the needful.
And he had Professor Smart Sapon. He's a senior research fellow at the Kumasi Technical University in the Ashanti region. Let's bring in Dr. Jonathan Asantiotre. He's political science analyst. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Doc, is it safe to say that the MPP is gradually listening to the voice of the people by this apology by the Vice President, former Vice President?
Come again.
I was asking whether you believe that the apology from Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia means that the MPP is gradually listening to the voice of the people.
Well, that's a very tricky question. Let me say good afternoon once again to your listeners. The point is that this time around, he involves everybody, with the exception of the president, to apologize on behalf of the entire team, with the exception of the former president, sorry. But for me, it is not a selfless apology, but it is a selfish apology because it is because of what he has, in a not too distant future. That is the impending presidential primaries within the MPP. That's the more reason why he feels obliged to do so. Apart from that, I am well informed that there is some kind of heat coming from within that suggests that Mr. Kennedy Japan is likely to upstage Dr. Bawumia. Therefore, he may have to portray himself as a unifier, not the person who is bringing division within the party. And this blame game is going down well with some delegates, as I am aware. It's going down well with some delegates. So the team of Dr. Bawumia want to reassert themselves and let everybody appear to say, no, that is not exactly what the report even suggests. In any case, we don't know what the report entirety is all about. And so I'm of the view that, yes, it is an attempt to hoodwink those who intend to vote, and then probably the entirety of the country when the time comes. I don't see any selflessness behind the apology. So
you don't see any sincerity in the apology of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia?
Because there is something behind. There is a motivation for the apology. He did not apologize when the electorate decided to vote against them in a massive manner. He did not do so. And then when they were called upon on a regular basis to do so, he never did so. So this time round that he wants to be the presidential candidate and then forthwith win the elections at the national level, that's the more reason why he's coming out with that particular kind of apology as a way of emotionally blackmailing, others to come on board. That is how I see it. And apart from that, as I said earlier on, the heat coming from within is too much because somebody authoritatively told me last week that the Mr. Kennedy Japan is likely to win the elections. As to whether it's a truism or falsity, only time will tell.
Only time will tell, you say, but what impact do you expect this apologies to make for the party and supporters, among others?
Well, it is to assuage their anger within the party. That one, no two ways about to assuage their anger as a way of asking for forgiveness. And so there are others who may be emotionally touched. Others also may feel that, look, the data over there is not easy to surmount. We don't need emotional, blackmailing in order to look at the other side when the facts and the figures do not look so well for the party. Should we use Dr. Bawumia? They should equally bear in mind that, yes, you may decide to accept. But the fact is that if the two things that the NDC ought to do before the 2028 elections, if they're able to do so, of what benefit, of what significant advantage will the party have bringing Dr. Bawumia? And those two things, the economy and the transition. So it's like the MPP, they are also in transition of a sort. But the NDC will have a transition from a very old phase to a new phase altogether. And that itself could come with some challenges. So if they are not able to handle those internal skirmishes that may rear their ugly heads along the line very carefully, the MPP can take advantage of that. That in itself may not way beyond the economy if the economy is handled well by the current president, the vice president, and all the other team, the ministers in terms of agri, finance, and so on and so forth. And so it is not just merely discarding Dr. Bawumia or bringing him, but everything points to the fact that they may want to retain Dr. Bawumia. Looking at the other, contestants, they may want to retain. But I would have preferred them to take a new course, maybe taking someone who is not, who doesn't have a lot of baggage, like Dr. Adu, for example. But I don't see how they may want to consider him. That decision is theirs to take. So I'm of the view that, look, by and large, he's taking that bold decision to apologize. He virtually roped everybody in instead of he owning up single-handedly, because you did that with the president. The buck stopped with you two guys, but he decided to rope everybody in. That is a style of leadership that I believe doesn't sit well with me. The MPP decided to bring Dr. Bawumia because 8 years in the position, 8 years in government, he was better positioned to defend the record of the MPP. But any point in time, when he gets the opportunity, he wants to swim. And that is something that others have been criticizing him so severely for. And I think maybe he may have to have a rethink of some of the political strategies that they put forth.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ocho, political science lecturer and analyst. Some 21 minutes past the hour of 12. When we come back, we'll bring you some more. Don't go away.
Ghana. It's a new year and Bills Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bills offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bills makes it happen. Call Bills Microcredit today. Call 0596-920-833 or 0302-200-390 and get started. Bills is licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Thank you very much for staying. Now, some Ghanaian refugees who fled the conflict at Binyere in the Savannah region say that they fear a return to their homes. This is despite the latest government assurance that security has been beefed up with facilities underway for their return. Maune Egbeta visited one of the settler camps in neighboring Ivory Coast and brought us this report.
Thousands over the last 3 weeks fled the Sola Tuna Kalba districts for fear of their lives as dispute over a small parcel of land claimed over 30 lives. The over 13,000 have taken refuge in camps inside neighbors Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso, where food and hygienic conditions have become a difficulty. With ongoing efforts at mediation, Foreign Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa headed to one of the settlements inside Vonkoro, Ivory Coast. Addressing the gathering after meeting with chiefs and Ivorian security officials, the minister apologized to the refugees for the inconvenience brought upon them.
We are here to empathize, to apologize to you all for what you have gone through. We regret the disturbances, and we know that you are in distress. You've left your homes, you've left your farms, you've left your property. Some of you have lost your relatives. We take full responsibility, and we want to really convey our regrets. This should never have happened, and we are going to make sure that it does not happen again.
He assured a return is safer with security deployed and 6 million CFA francs donated to facilitate their return.
We want to encourage all of you to return. President Mahama, as Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, has put in place a number of measures. There's been massive security deployment. Camps have been established. A committee has been set up to mediate between the traditional leaders on all sides, and calm has been restored. So I'm here to deliver a message to you from the President that it is time to go back. Don't be scared. You will meet adequate security. You will be safe. So we encourage you to go back.
But for the settlers, a return would be difficult.
Now that the Foreign Affairs Minister is asking us to go back, and the security is only based in Bulletin, how safe are we going to be? To me, I still believe that there is some kind of fear that still impounded on us.
They make me say I buy on head na some coffee. They make we should say make coffee. We should buy. Until member ni na you should say ever some coffee. I buy on head so kakra.
Many here are farmers and herdsmen as well. So if let's say the security are based in town, how do you go to farm to harvest your farm crops or your farm product that are spoiling in the farm? So that's our worries now.
Ivorian authorities, meanwhile, have urged patience in repatriating the Ghanaians. Mediation is ongoing. Government assurance of safety rings loud, but for many of these settlers, a lot more than these is needed to guarantee their return. Mawina Egbeta, Voncron, La Côte d'Ivoire.
And let's return here, and with the government's intention to close down the Sola and Vonkoro camps this week, the over 20,000 displaced victims who had pitched camp in Sola and Vonkoro have begun returning to their communities. Let's speak to my colleague Christopher Amwako, who's been following this story for us. Chris, if you can hear me, now that the people are going by themselves, is it the case that they are being pressured to leave the camps or voluntarily leaving based on what the government says?
Okay, so Beatrice, so government has indicated that, in fact, today was supposed to be the day that the camp is expected to totally close down. But even before today, the victims themselves have started returning to their communities. But the key issue that keeps coming up is the safety of these people who are returning into their communities. They, according to them, they fear that probably their communities may be attacked. But apart from that, I can say that out of the over 1,000 victims who were at the Solar camp, as we speak, only 36 of them are still there. The 36 are those who have some health conditions and are staying back so that they can have easy access to healthcare services at the Solar Government Hospital.
I want us to listen to the DC and I'll come back to you.
I am pleased that at the moment the numbers are drastically down. Most of them are gone. I do hope and pray that they will remain in their various communities. Currently we have less than 100 people. I don't have the actual figures, but going around, we have less than 100 people in the various tents. And very soon, as we are putting the security measures in place, we will send all of them back to their various communities.
How soon are you sending them?
In the course of this week, hopefully. And we also do pray that nothing happens in any community any longer. This will enable us to send all of them back. You know, definitely every conflict situation has its challenges. And this hardship and other things are the challenges of conflict. And with the help of stakeholders and donor partners, developmental organizations, I'm very sure we will overcome this in the near future.
And you had the DC for that Solar area. Christopher Mwako is still on the line with us. Chris, I know you visited the 36 victims, especially at the Solar camp. What did they tell you? And we've lost Christopher Amwako on the line. But Chris brought us that conversation he had with the victims earlier. Let's listen to them.
Bana meet me ya juma dan ne pa ba ne be kun pa no me dadan ho meet me sore ni police for fam ba no e ba me sore me dasa.
And he had a victim of that conflict in the northern part of the country saying she's sick and has been sleeping since. Of course, we'll bring you updates in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us on the Midday News today on 3FM 92.7. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Coming up shortly is Business Daily with Michael Lubudu.
Radio station.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama reassures public as CD appreciates 21% year to date despite seasonal pressures and weak remittance inflows.
Our commitment remains firm, and these are to maintain price stability, to safeguard financial stability, and to create the conditions for inclusive and sustainable growth.
Plus, IC Research projects up to 300 basis points cut in Bank of Ghana policy rate as Monetary Policy Committee begins deliberations amid calls from industry for cheaper credit. Plus, Food and Beverages Association of Ghana FABAC warns tariff hikes will cripple businesses, undermine 24-hour economy. We'll hear from Chairman Reverend John Awuni. I'll bring you details of these and many other stories. I am Michael Lubudu. Please stay with us. Thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, has given fresh assurance about the strength of the Ghana cedi, highlighting that the currency has appreciated by about 21% so far this year, despite ongoing challenges from seasonal trade-related foreign exchange demand and a slowdown in remittance inflows. Opening the 126th Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Accra, Dr. Isiama attributed the cedi's resilience to prudent monetary policy, stronger reserves, and tighter enforcement of foreign exchange regulations, while urging businesses and households to maintain confidence in the local currency.
Seasonal pressures, and despite seasonal pressures and a moderation in remittance inflows in recent weeks, the cedi remains among the strongest currencies globally year to date, appreciating by about 21% as of September 12th. The cedi now ranks alongside high performers such as the Russian ruble, the Swedish krona, the Norwegian krone, the Swiss franc, the euro, and the British pound. This outperformance reflects prudent monetary policy. It also reflects effective liquidity management at the central bank. It reflects fiscal consolidation, and it also reflects increased foreign exchange inflows. Colleagues, our commitment remains firm, and these are to maintain price stability, to safeguard financial stability, and to create the conditions for inclusive and sustainable growth.
That was Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama. Now, research arm of IC Securities, IC Research, is forecasting that the Bank of Ghana's Monetary Policy Committee could slash the benchmark policy rate by as much as 300 basis points. The committee has begun its 3-day deliberations today with focus on the policy rate currently at 25%. IC Research's projection comes as businesses and industry leaders intensify calls for cheaper credit to spur growth, even as economists urge a more cautious and modest approach in light of currency pressures and expected utility tariff hikes.
The Bank of Ghana's Monetary Policy Committee is expected to deliver another significant rate at its September 2025 meeting, continuing its dovish stance. According to IC Research, the policy rate, currently at 25%, translates to a real interest rate of 13.5%, which could widen to over 15% without further action. This, the firm says, leaves enough room for another deep cut, projecting a 300 basis point reduction to 22%. Inflation has cooled sharply, falling to 11.5% in August, the lowest since October 2021, well before the authorities' 2025 target of 11.9%. The slowdown has been driven by sustained disinflation in transport fares, food, and favorable base effects. IC Research forecasts further easing in September, projecting year-to-date inflation to settle around 9.6% despite some month-on-month price increases. The expected policy decision will be closely watched by markets as Ghana navigates a delicate balance between growth and price stability. This comes after the MPC already slashed its rate by 300 basis points in July.
That was a report, a 3 Business News Desk report. Now, the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana is warning that the proposed utility tariff hikes will cripple businesses and derail government's 24-hour economy policy. The association insists that inefficiencies and corruption within the utilities must be fixed first, arguing that higher tariffs alone will not solve the sector's problems.
We have started facing the challenge of exchange losses. Most of the goods that are sent out into the markets were sent out at lower exchange rate, and these goods are in the market at on credit. So if utilities are increased, tariffs are increased again, it will exacerbate the already challenging situation of the businesses. Again, also, if these tariffs are increased, it will kill the 24-hour economy agenda of the government. Most workers in the ECC have privatized their desks, and they will not do anything in the name of the company for free. You have to bribe for literally everything to be done, and we cannot continue this.
So that was Chairman of the Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, FABAG, Reverend John Awuni. Now, the Minister of Energy and Green Transition, John Abdullahi Jinapor, has called on African nations to carve out a unique path in the global energy transition, stressing that the continent cannot simply copy models from advanced economies while over 600 million of its people remain without electricity. Addressing the opening of the 7th African Petroleum Producers Organization, APO, a National Oil Companies Forum in Accra, the minister argued that Africa's vast oil and gas resources should be harnessed responsibly to fuel industrialization and inclusive economic growth.
4% of energy when it comes to final energy consumption. And so Africa is emerging, and Africa has a lot to do when it comes to industrialization, economic growth. And oil continues to be a critical component of our revenue base and our quest to develop. One problem that Africa faces is that the ordinary African do not feel part of the oil resource. You go to so many countries where we produce oil, and just next by the refineries and where they produce oil, you see real, absolute, abject poverty. And so how we can integrate the people and ensure that we have what is now known as inclusive economic growth is very, very critical. And I encourage you that let's learn from each other, look at what other countries are doing, and how we can integrate that like in our national development discourse and policy so that people can begin to see the actual benefit of the oil resources.
Now, as Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Abdullahi Jinapo. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, Kwame Nto, says he is confident Ghana will soon secure funding for major energy projects through the Africa Energy Bank, which is currently being established. The Africa Energy Bank, a joint initiative between the Africa Petroleum Producers Organization, APO, and Afrexim Bank, is expected to begin the continent's leading financier for oil, gas, and energy infrastructure by mobilizing private sector investment. Speaking to journalists on the sidelines of the APO and National Oil Company CEOs meeting in Accra, Mr. Nto revealed that Ghana has already made a down payment of about $20 million towards its commitment to the bank's formation.
About 3-4 companies have already paid, their subscriptions. Including Ghana? Ghana has paid about 25% of the required amount. And we expect that with Nigeria and Angola, we can at least start the project. We can start the Africa Energy Bank, which is headquartered in Nigeria. 25% of our required, every country has to pay 83 million. So we paid last year about 25% of that, which is about $20 million. So we are encouraging the other countries, to also come up with their subscriptions. And then it will be supported by the Afrexim Bank, which will match whatever we put in there. So I believe that if we're able to, if we're successful with that financing aspect with the bank, Ghana can actually access some of that financing for the critical projects that we have. Okay.
So that was Chief Executive of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, Kwame Nto, bringing an end to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please visit our website at 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.